All right, welcome. This is Not Information Podcast, episode 4 with Mega and Kristen and Wakanda and Bernie and Maurice. And I'm Paulie Rhyme. And today we're going to get into 3 topics. Our first topic is about information, and then we're going to move into talking about the vaccine and then problematic faves. So we're going to let Mega jump off the question for information. Um, and we'd like to thank y'all for tuning in.
Bet. Um, yeah, so this kind of comes off of the back of the conversation that we were having last week, discussing, or 2 weeks ago now, discussing who taught us to think and how we think. It was kind of supposed to be a combined topic, but because it's a lot of speaking and a lot of time that it took to lay out the last position, we decided to save this point for its own episode. So the question is basically, how do you assess the quality of your information? I feel like with the kind of just massive amount of information out there, it's important to have critical analysis skills and important analytical instruments to determine what is actually useful. So yeah, that's basically it. I don't know who wants to go first, but yeah, word, do that, go. Should I lay out the question more, or do we? Is that clear for everybody? We understand
Okay.
what we're trying to get at, right? Okay.
What we got? Anybody? We so polite today. Who's on? Y'all on mute.
Give me a second. Yeah, I'll hit it. I'll hit it first. Hold on a second. Yeah. So, how to assess? Basically, for me, as a with a historical background, like studying history, being someone who was always regarded as an outcast or as an underdog. For me, growing up, I had elders, my family members, parents tell me, if everybody is saying the same thing. Again, going back to what I said, if you watch the last episode, I had my father and other people, my grandparents would say, ask the question why. Why are all these people saying it? Make sure for yourself. Believe half of what you hear, because there are people out there that are invested in misleading you. They are materially vested in your confusion and your um, your the lack of ability to discern what's real from what's fake. So for me, I was always quite skeptical. I think that kind of goes back to, I think we had a chat off camera about religion. Reading the Bible, reading the Quran, any text, trying to pull the string and trying to figure out, okay, well, how did we come to this consensus? And if some of the things that led up to that conclusion doesn't make sense, then you can take that and make your own judgment. So for me, it was just being thorough, being just not being lazy about consuming the information. Now, and again, it's much harder nowadays because we get so much information bombarding us day by day. The news cycle is not even 24 hours now. You have some people that, you know, they could die to, this morning, and we're talking about something else the same day, the same evening. So making sure that I pace myself in terms of how much information I intake per day. It gives me time to process and kind of digest some of the things that might be, dubious in nature. And then also, it comes down to trust too. If I have people that are around me that actually say, hey, this is something that I truly believe, and I've actually done the work. I've invested time and energy, a significant amount of time and energy in investigating these things. Then yeah, I ask people. I talk to them. I have a heart to heart with them to get their views on it. Megha had asked me before about like Socratic method. It's like, yeah, I just sit down and listen. You listen more, and then you can again, people will tell you like who they are when they first meet you, or like how they act, like in their actions. For example, with the media elites, in my time in DC, and just, being around people that are in the industry of just creating a news cycle, people that work for the mainstream outlets, if you sit down and just observe them, what's most important to them? Are they actually trying to be adversarial to the people that are in power, the elites that are in power, that can actually dictate what happens with rank and file, proletariat people, the people that are just out there that are supposedly in the middle America, like diner, like, are they trying to actually help those people? Or are they just trying to get views? Are they just trying to get engagements, likes, clicks, or whatever? Are they just trying to get the ad money? And if that's the case, and that's when you probably have to say, hey, maybe we need to peel back the onion a little bit, and look behind the curtain and see if there's any misrepresentation of the facts. So for me, I always tell my children and any of my younger students, and any of my older students too, like, don't just take anything and everything at face value, especially like mainstream news. That's not to say, for example, going back to like I was saying, me and my father, I would listen to like Rush Limbaugh and that type of stuff. I'm not saying, like one American news network is going to have better sourcing than like CNN or MSNBC, but you have to realize that all of these media outlets and sources of information, even in academia, some of these, whole entire disciplines like anthropology, even history, you got people that are invested in hiding the full story, because that means their bag is done, that their income is over. So if they tell one story, if they create a narrative and they keep it rolling, then that means the gravy train keeps rolling as well. So they'll do, sneaky things, small things that are not readily seen with the eye. You have to really, get in there and look. They'll do things to kind of hinder people that actually want to know a wider view of the truth.
Yeah,
So I tell people all the time, you got to read.
Let's get Bernie in here. See what you want to build on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what, at least like definitely the last part of what Maurice was saying was what I was also wanted to add on as well. But like give a little backstory. I try not to read as much articles that I see that's just like being shared on Facebook, whether they could be trustworthy or not. I try to like go to books more, or I try to go on like talks, YouTube talks, or go around that and see who else is saying these kind of things. Like I just read the title and then I try to see if there's other resources that I can gravitate towards to get me something, unless it's like about a shooting or something like that. And I'm not saying like, again, like not everything on Facebook is untrustworthy. I just try to go somewhere else first. And I think, and I'm doing that as a way to hold myself accountable, because what happened in the summer, there was an article that was going around Facebook about like how to stop COVID, and what people there was this article talking about like, oh, like COVID dies within 6 feet and like things like that. And I didn't really read the article because the person who gave me the article was somebody I trusted, and they received it from somebody they trusted, right? And I remember I shared it to somebody, and 2 people were like, hey Bernie, like, why you share this article? I'm surprised you did, because this is not a trustworthy article. Like they're saying all these things that are convoluted. And I was like, what? And I'm reading it and I'm like, oh wow, you're right. Right. And so for me, like it would, even though like part of that is because I didn't actually read the article, but it was also that I can get articles from people that I trust. And even if they claim that they fact checked it, doesn't necessarily mean that like their the article itself could be actually beneficial or it's accurate or anything like that, because it depends on like the individual and their mindset and how they're reading the article. So I try to go around that by doing my own research, at least outside of Facebook. So I try to go to YouTube, I try to go to read books if I can. I'm a slow reader, so it doesn't happen that fast, but I try to go somewhere else where I can get the information. How I then assess it, what I tend to do, I always go to the reference page, and I look at all the other references that they have on there. So if there are people that I know that are trustworthy, or if they're at least referencing articles that I can actually access, then it's like, okay, that maybe is a little bit more, I don't say more better, it's not even proper English, more trustworthy. But then also like the conversation about like peer reviewed, whether the book or article itself is peer reviewed. I know that there is some um, untrustworthy aspects to peer reviewed, because depending on the actual topic, there may be people in the peer reviewed system that already know each other, and kind of similar to what Marisa saying is that like sometimes information that is often disseminated in the mass is used to hide the real truth. So I try to do a little bit more research, or I try to see like, okay, so I think our conversations about race is a great example of that, where like we're talking a lot about race and we all have opinions about race, and then you have somebody like Mega who like brings in like, okay, don't forget about class, and so he adds a different dimension to the conversation that may have been not necessarily lost but not necessarily talked about. And it's not that we all don't think about class, but it's that we're talking about this one specific aspect, and we're not necessarily thinking about the intricacies between race and class. So something like that is a great example of like, I'm reading an article and they're talking about like one lens. So I try to question, is there something else that they're not telling us? Is there something else about this story that I may not recognize? So I try to look at the references, see what the references are saying. If there's something that I miss and I'm questioning it, I try to see if I can do more research into that, to see if it can give me a bigger picture. At least that's what I'm doing as of right now. I'm also looking forward to seeing what everybody else says, to see if I can hone in on that and do a better, better version, but have a better tools to use in my arsenal. But at least that's how I'm doing it right now.
Yeah, for sure. Kristen, you said you wanted to add to that. Unmute yourself, lady.
I am unmuted now. No, Bernie and Maurice both gave really great points. So I also try to cross-examine like a lot of information I get, whether it be from Facebook or from like a link somebody shared with me, just because like taking something from just one source is probably not the smartest thing to do, because that source can be very biased. So it's very important to just cross-reference from other sources of information. For example, like when I had COVID-19, like I was like, well, my nose is like really stopped up. Like I want to take like an antihistamine, and antihistamines are like good for nasal decongestants or whatnot. And so I literally Googled like, can you take an antihistamine with COVID? And like the first article that popped up was like, yeah, you can, that's totally fine. So like I popped one, and an hour later, like my heart was just like palpitating like really fast. And like I got really scared because I don't usually have like extremely fast heart rates in general. That's not a part of like my normal biology. And so like I asked my mom, I was like, Mom, is this like okay? Like, can you take like antihistamines like with COVID? And she's like, no, that like speeds up your heart rate and it can also decrease your blood pressure. And I was just like, crap. So she was like, you really need to like take like medical information from like reliable sources, like from WebMD, sometimes from the CDC's website, because these are like trusted sources for like guaranteed medical information. So it's really important that you don't just take information from a single source, because you could get something bad like that happen to you. Also, it's important too, like maybe this is going too much into medicine, and I'm sorry if it is, but you also need to make sure like that these sources of information you're getting like your info from, like they've actually had credible experiments performed and like credible studies, because you know there might be one study going on that might say like, oh, this is what our results have found, but then like you see another study come from like another university or from another laboratory and they're like, oh, but we tried it this way and this is how we found it to be. So like you have to gather like a good substantial amount of information before you actually make your conclusion. So be sure to cross-reference studies as well, because those are important. They actually did that with like the whole aspartame situation. If you guys know what aspartame is.
Okay. Let us know. I don't know that.
Sure. So I'll type it for you in the chat. So aspartame is a chemical compound. It's usually found in like sugar-free gums and like a lot of sugar-free products. Um, and, you know, it's funny, the FDA is like, oh, aspartame is fine. Like, that's why you put it in sugar-free gum. It cannot kill you. What? And then you look up aspartame and you find several studies of aspartame actually causing cancer cells in rats and tumor growths. So yeah, what I would say is, yeah, please cross-reference your information as much as possible. And that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't trust the government, so I'd like to put that out there. I really believe that the government, and when I say government, I mean the United States government is trying to kill us. Or not necessarily kill us, but keep us sick.
Agreed.
And the reason why I say that is based on my experience with the medical system in Japan versus the medical system in United States, and how just in my own experience, I'm just speaking strictly from my experience, is that they give out herbal medicine. You know, they don't, like I'm borderline diabetic, and they've been doing lots of preventive things and things not to just put me on the medicine and asking me to, you know, come in more often, my weight, you know, all these different, just not the medicine, right? Even with like dealing with high blood pressure and stuff like that, it's like, okay, we're gonna give you a little bit, and we want you to try to do this exercise, or we want you to do this, and we want to try to stop you from getting on the medicine because they're, and so whereas like in the United States, either they don't give you medicine, they're like, oh, I'll go home, you all right, or they be like, here's 10 different types of medicine, try these things. And so that's always been my experience. That's just my experience. But I think as a teacher and as some, you know, I would say I had really good teachers. They always said to look at things in threes. So if there is something that is posed to you, you know, that's one source, but try to find 2 or 3 other sources that you can either makes this information not true or backs up the information, and be clear as to where that comes from. Also, Wikipedia is not a primary source. And so growing up in the age of the card catalog, where you would go to the, I don't know if y'all know about that, I'm old. So you go to the library, look, you're like, nah. And you look through the card catalog and they will always send you to other sources. I think that's one thing. And then not being emotional. Because when they said Black people couldn't get COVID, I was all for, I was like, yes, I'm like, or like I have old blood type and they like, yo, you good. And so you want to just believe it, right? You want to just be like, I'm Black and I got the O. I'm great. You know what I'm saying? I'm indestructible. And you'll mess around and get COVID. So I think the emotional aspect of it, yeah. So the author, yeah, for sure. Like I don't know. I wanted to believe that Black people didn't get COVID. I wanted to believe it, and I had to fight through the emotion of it. So, but yeah, threes. I always think about that. Everything for me is in threes. And I don't really consume my information online as much. I do look at news.google. I look at some of the, you know, more aggregated. So if they have something, an article, I'm always looking for, is there another article kind of to offset that? Or yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. The threes thing, it's always 3 for me. Like, so that's how it is. Mega, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, I essentially agree with what everybody's saying. I mean, we're talking about trying to discern what is true and useful from what is bullshit and it is wrong. One of the things for me is like, it's not just logic and it's not just critical thinking, but a lot of these things are like useful. I use a lot of different tools. Like one of the most simple tools to discern whether or not you should buy into something or need to even pay attention to it is like Occam's razor. Like, yo, sometimes the simplest answer is the best. And that's really useful when it comes to talking to like a lot of conspiracy theorists about things like that explosion that happened in Beirut a couple months ago. They're like, oh, that was a nuke. Look at the way the cloud shape and look at it was huge. And it's like, yo, dog, like really? Like, slow down. Use Occam's razor here. It's not that serious. And you know, but I feel like, especially for leftists, we have to do a lot more work than other people. Like a lot of Marxists and even anarchists, communists study is based upon like a mountain of ways of viewing the world outside of this capitalist lens. You have to read philosophy and psychology. You have to learn about ideology and understand that it's not just the people in power, it's also the function of ideology and how it informs people. It's almost as if ideology works as a filter over things. And so like sometimes it's easy for me to dismiss somebody just because I'm like, oh, I see, I look at them and it's like, oh, if I reading this, I can see that the entire article is a shade of green or a shade of something that is reflective on a person's ideology. And the way that ideology functions is that you don't really know that you're functioning off of ideology. You don't really understand the things that are pinned to the way that you view the world. And this is why I'm so critical about people who say they are leftists and say they are socialists, but they don't do the legwork to read about these things. It's because it's easy to the function of the ideological state apparatus and the repressive state apparatuses are to confuse us, and it is to lock us into these things and distract us from the real fights that are happening in the real in the misinformation. So I just keep I use a lot of tools that I've read from philosophy, psychology, politics, everything. One of the first things I was taught in Supreme Mathematics was to not just read the book, but read the author. And that was a baseline thing that I learned. So it's like, if you're reading this book and they're giving you all this information, but this person, you see what they're doing on the side is real crooked. It's like it puts that filter over all of that information. It makes you second guess it. And we have to study language and semantics and all these things, man. It's a never ending journey. But one of the reasons that I wanted to bring up this question is because there's so much things out there that are seemingly information. And we think that people's experiences are information. And we think of this, if there's a magnitude, a lot of people saying this one thing, that is information. And I think that it's important to really think about ideology when it comes to magnitude, when it comes to quantity of information, because all of it, just because people are sincere or you trustworthy, doesn't mean that the information you're getting from them is accurate, useful, or even true. So I don't know, man. I don't fuck with a lot of news sources. I don't really fuck with articles. I'll look at an article and read it, but all that means to me is if I get some piece of information, it means that I got to read 5 more pieces of information to see how I feel about that first piece of information. And luckily there's a lot of bullshit out there, so it's easy to just this is not useful. This is ridiculous to me. I don't need to hear about some uh fucking thing. Like, yeah, a lot of it is just trash. One of the reasons that I like the title "This is not information" is because people think that just because something has data, just because something is presented as information, that is true, useful fact or whatever. And that's not usually the case.
Yeah, the one thing, and I want this is a good thing when people, and I let me preface this by saying, like, I'm thinking about fallacies, right? And so when you get into these arguments and you get into these conversations with people, and something I had to really be conscious of, especially being online, is when people use fallacies. And it's not something that you think about, because normally when you're having a debate that might come up, but you're debating online. And I started to really get more in tune with these ideas that people are really using fallacies to get their point across. And it goes like when Megan's talking about data, like they'll come up with this rant. You can fashion data, or you can do things in a way, anyway, you can push it your way, right? You can find something to back you up. So when you come across some data from, like, say, a person, a friend, or someone you engage in a conversation, in that moment, how do you determine that this is, some mess? You know what I'm saying? It's either not worth your time, or they're just trying to push you in their way with whatever. You know what I'm saying? So how do you determine that information is not worth your time? whoever. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, I mean, that's important too. You know, people there's so many different logical fallacies that people use in argument, and I definitely am not one to get away from that. Like I also use logical fallacies. I'm no expert on it or rhetoric, but studying fallacies and how to combat them is important in discerning the type of information that you get. Some of the most easy logical fallacies are like ad hominem, right? When a person just start talking shit about you or talking shit instead of addressing the argument. Like it's easy to dismiss that as like, oh, that's bullshit right there. But you know, for me, it's a never ending thing. It's like there's so many different types of fallacies that you just have to approach them in different ways as they come up. For information that I get from people, like I try not to. You guys know I don't really like. I've more recently been on Twitter, and every time I get on Twitter, it's like I might see a good comment here or there, but then there's like 15 others that are just not useful for me, and I'm really one to discern that. I am very serious about not to kind of disabuse myself of social media, because just because everybody has opinions don't mean I need to be subjected to them any more than I need to watch Fox News. I know that there's nothing useful for me on Fox News. I don't need to know what the other side is thinking because I already understand certain ideological components of that. And the other things that I'm reading are discerning those things too. I don't need to hear it firsthand from Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, or even people on the left who are full of bullshit.
So Mega is saying that he's cutting the line. He drew a line and saying he's not even listening. But Maurice, you said that you were being raised in a way where you wanted to hear the other side, or you needed to hear the perspective. So can you speak to that?
Well, I mean, just from a combative's perspective, I can't attack you if I don't know where to attack, if I don't have anything to hold on to. If we're doing like, if we're in a judo match or something like that, and the guy just stands there and he stays away, he doesn't engage me, it's very difficult for me to find a place or a point of attack. So it gives me pause. So therefore, I have to make sure, for example, you mentioned someone like a Jordan Peterson or Ben Shapiro, I mean, hey, I'm the same. I engage in ad hominem all the time. I'll talk shit to them right to their face if I had a chance. If they engage me, then let's do it, because I can go at it with them. But all you have to do is look at what people do and how they act, and then you can form your opinion there. Because the reality is what they've actually done. You can't go, with social media and the technology that has advanced so quickly over the past couple of decades, you have people that do actually try to scrub the records of, the bullshit that they've engaged in over the past, 20, 30 years. There's a lot of great examples of that. And I put in the chat, people who are disingenuous. Yeah. I've made great gains for myself personally, not to engage people that want to draw me in just to waste my time. Those time vampires that they're pulling you into a circular argument. But for me, to be able to keep a healthy distance while still being able to attack, again, going back to the combatives perspective, for me, if you tell me something that is anti-Black, I'm going to have something. I will come back at you if I deem it necessary or deem it worthy of my time. But again, going back to what Mega was saying, I don't have to subject myself to every single opinion out there, because a lot of it's shit, a lot of it's garbage. So time is your most valuable, one of your most valuable assets. It's always depreciate. It's always going away. So you need to make the best of it as much as possible. So for me, a lot of times, I've seen a lot of this stuff going on within the left, like cannibalizing each other. I'll just observe. I'm like Uatu, man. I'm the watcher. I'll just sit there and I'll watch, and I have my opinion, but guess what? It's not worth my time because I'm not going to change anybody's minds because they've probably invested their whole entire persona online and offline in some bullshit. So how am I going to try to, you know, dissolve that or destroy that facade or persona in a 2-day long thread? It's not going to happen. And then I raise my stress levels, and then it's, you know, but if it's somebody that I know, like personally, or if it's somebody in a position of power that I might know secondarily, yeah, I might engage them, or I might give them drop some knowledge on them, or I'm willing to listen to their perspective so we can engage in a healthy dialogue, so we can come to an understanding. That's, you know, I think is very vital to be able um, to push the conversations that we've been talking about on this podcast and elsewhere forward. You have to engage. There's no way around that. You have to engage, but you have to pick and choose. You have to be very smart about it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Do you have? So I see it. I'm just gonna bring this out. Do you have outlets, or whether groups or people that you know, if you're trying to avoid it? Because I know when I first got on Facebook or something like that, I would argue. I'd be arguing for hours, man. I even like deleted people. I know my brother got a friend. He's a conservative, and we got into it. I was like, man, look what you're saying. You know what I mean? And I'm, you know, at work. I'm over here. I'm going back, checking it, going to the bathroom, like, bam, shoot shots, and then come back up. And finally, that was for me. That was like a breaking point. Like, why am I wasting my time doing? Is this really a conversation that is necessary? And so, do you guys have outlets that you have? Um, we could just kind of go around when you have to separate yourself from a debate or a conversation, and you can go to and you can kind of get, you know, who's your Yoda? You know what I'm saying?
I can say something really quickly.
Yeah.
Since I started studying, I've always made sure to have mentors and people whose perspective that I understand, that I could build from. And this goes back to what everyone was saying about trust. It's like I know them well enough that I know what's features of their ideology are and how things are useful to me and how they help me grow. Both older people, smarter people, younger people, people who probably haven't read as much as me. There's usefulness in so many of our comrades. We just have to be able to discern, you know, where that comes from. So I have a good circle of friends that I build with. Like more recently, you guys have been a kind of a sounding board for my ideas to refine them myself, and also to be challenged by you. And so, you know, just fill your circle with people who actually contribute to you learning and to you becoming better and pushing the movement forward, and contribute to those organizations. And the infighting shit, man, it's like, I won't get into the specifics of all that, but you know, those people are making money off of their fucking, that's an ideology thing. So word, man.
This is the
Thank
age of
you all for that.
monetization. People are monetizing those arguments. I had to learn that the hard way. But Bernie, you over there dancing? What you got?
I mean, no. Mega and Maurice are funny. No, I agree. I also have people that I go towards. But I'm like, what in the world is this? I end up going to the same people that I know. I am trying to hold myself accountable in terms of like not going to people who are just going to confirm something that I believe just to confirm it. I'm trying to go to people who like would add to the conversation, would be like, yeah, girl, you're right. But it's like, okay, here's why. And then we're like, okay, lit. Even if and seeing if they have like maybe a different perspective or anything like that. So like one of my closest friends, I tend to go to her a lot when I see something that's crazy. But I also have like different groups for different things, depending on what they know, right? So like I have, you know, people who know more about like something that's going on in like South Korea, and I'm like, okay, I noticed this. Am I tripping for tripping? Right? Like, tell me what do you see? What I see? Is this an actual issue? Let's actually talk about it. I go to you guys, or you all, when it comes to like just like anything, because kind of similar to Mega, like you are also my sounding board, but also I see you all as people who have different strands of knowledge that I can end up like picking your brain about something and I learn more from it. I don't necessarily go to them in terms of like bring my own opinion, but I see what people are saying. So I do like I do it in terms of like groups. Like if I'm in like a Facebook group and I have an opinion about something, but I notice that somebody else also has brought up a topic. So like let's say for example, What's that woman? I keep forgetting her name. Harry Potter. You know, the person who wrote Harry Potter, and
J.K. Rowling.
yeah, her. I never remember her name, but she had said or done some problematic things, or what people conceive as problematic things. I have an opinion on it, but I see what other people are saying, and I don't necessarily use that as like a, oh, like, let me see, let's, exchange opinions, but I just see what people are saying and then think about where my thoughts lie in terms of that. And I do that with I'm in like a Black Girls Read Too on Facebook. I'm also in Black Women in Japan group, and I do that in a lot in all these different groups where I'm not like the only person in there. Yeah, I just try to, I kind of said with a mega, try to, not trying to sound like a microphone, but like I just try to talk to people that I already know we're in similar lines, but I know that they're not going to just confirm everything that I'm saying.
Kristen,
And I also talk to,
oh, sorry,
sorry.
Brandon, keep going.
No, I was just gonna say I also talk to people who like don't know anything, not anything, but they don't talk about these things as much, but may actually contribute something that I don't know. Because when sometimes like when you, I don't want to say when you're too like research, but when you know a lot, there could be some things that you miss. So I go to my brother a lot. Because my brother, he's like more like, I'm a gamer. I don't really care about these theories kind of things. Like, I don't really care. But he surprises me a lot when I'm like, bro, what do you think about this like comment? I think it's sexist. And he's like, well, look at it this way. And it's like, that's a good point. Or I agree with you because of this. And it's like, look at you. Thank you.
But you gotta think different ways when you're a gamer. You know what I'm saying? You got shout out to.
I'm crying.
Kristen, what do you think?
I mean, that's true. Actually, my brother is a lot like Bernie's. Like, he's an avid gamer. He's into like what's that game called? Fire Emblem. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it. It's like a bunch of pretty boys with swords and magicians and whatnot.
Yes, it's like the host club with swords. Yeah.
I'm playing for more reason of all the games, right?
Yeah, I know.
But no, it's funny because I feel like, I don't know, I get this feeling that a lot of people don't like to be wrong or don't like to be classified as quote unquote dumb because they don't know something. So I feel like a lot of times what people do is they pretend to understand something, and even if you prove them wrong, they're like, oh, but like I just can't agree with that, even if you've given them evidence that like, okay, but like it's still wrong based on X, Y, and Z. So I think it's just important for people to not base so much of, how can I put this? They shouldn't put so much of their ego into learning, because the thing is about learning is you're there to learn. You're basically like a mini student and you're trying to gain all the information you can to form a good, incredible idea, concept, perspective on something. So make sure to toss your ego aside is what I try to do, I guess, on an everyday basis, because like, I mean, I have a liberal arts degree, but a lot of my friends have like degrees in business or like degrees in like women's studies or degrees in even like specific histories from different countries. Like I have a friend who's like an Asian studies major. So she knows like all of the history of like Korea when it was still unified, Japan, China. And then like even the ancient civilizations of like the Khmer people and like Malaysia. And I think, what was Burma called? Well, what was Burma called? Malay? Before it was called Burma, I think it was called Malay. And so I think it's good to also have, like Bernie said, a good diversity of friend groups that you can go to for specific topics, because I don't know that much about the Khmer Rouge or anything, but if I wanted to know, I could ask my friend like, well, why did this happen? So in regards to politics, I also try to be that way as well. A lot of my dad's side is like heavily conservative. So like, even though I definitely don't agree with some things like that they have in their ideology, like they always give me a different perspective of how to look at something. For example, and like I don't really have like a strong opinion on this, but when the whole issue of like trans women competing in like cis women sports became like an issue, like, a lot of liberals were just like, oh, like it's totally fine, like they're women, so they should be competing with women. And I was just like, okay, like I could see that. And then like one of my cousins from my dad's side was like, well, that's fine. They are women, like from a gender perspective, but at the same time, if someone has been growing up biologically male and then they just start taking puberty blockers at like 15, the like skeletal anatomy of that person has already developed, and you do need to take into consideration those physical differences between a lot of cisgendered women and trans women. And I was like, yeah, that I can see as well. So like with those two differing opinions, I try to formulate like a good, honest opinion as well, because like I said, I try not to be like, how can I put it? I think that heart palpitations coming on from COVID, but like I'm trying to say like I'm not trying to be so egotistical in my approach to learning. Like it's good to get, you know, sources from your different friend groups and whatnot. So
Cool. Yeah, and you know, we want to make sure you're good. So
thanks.
yeah. All right, Mega, you say you want to wrap it up. So
Yeah, man. When it comes to assessing the quality of your information, stop just reading tweets and articles to feel like you're informed. If you have an interest in something, read books by the authors that the people who are texting about or talking about are looking into. There's a whole world of information, and we need to be better. We need to try harder. Tweets are not going to have you informed, and most news articles ain't either. So
for
that's it.
sure. All right, so the next topic we want, I think this is also good because, you know, talking about information and how we assess information. So the big thing in the Black community, and I think, and also in multiple communities, you know, Eric Clapton and Van Morrison just came out with an anti-mask song because they, you know, I don't know about them. And so there is this thing in communities about the vaccine and people for various reasons not wanting to take the vaccine. And so they've been trotting out all kind of people on the TV, from doctors to politicians to all these people trying to get them to take the vaccine. I seen someone post today, they think the vaccine got a microchip in it, and they using it to track us. I seen a lot of things about also the Tuskegee experiment, and people, family members from those people coming out and saying, hey, this is not all the information. You are using this inaccurately. So when we're talking about information, we're talking about vaccine, what do you think about people using these different types of information or piecing these information together to say they're not going to take the vaccine? And are you going to take the vaccine? If you don't want to answer, you don't have to answer, but you can pass on the vaccine question. I'm taking the vaccine, so I put that right there. I didn't take the flu vaccine, though. We can talk about that.
Never taken
Anyway.
a flu vaccine.
Look at Bernie. I know every time I say I take the flu vaccine, she'd be like, oh, I'm just keeping it 100. All right. Anybody? Oh, Kristen, yes. Smooth as I smooth.
I'll go so I can get my nervousness out of the way.
Okay.
But no, I mean, considering what Black people have been through in this country, it kind of makes sense that a lot of people are very weary about like the first round of COVID vaccine. I mean, like you said, the Tuskegee like airman experiment. There were also like experiments being performed on slave women, like in their genitalia for, you know, gynecological research purposes. And like there was actually a book I read about 2 years ago about this woman named Henrietta Lacks, if you've ever heard of her.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like famous in the medical community, but I had never heard about her until recently. And I think when she was diagnosed with cervical cancer, they had taken a sample of her cells, and instead of these cells behaving like normal cells and just dying within a few hours, they were actually like replicating they were replicating quite rapidly within a span of 20 to 24 hours. And they dubbed her cells, I think, the HeLa cells or HeLa cells, I think it was, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, HeLa or HeLa. And she had not known, like none of the doctors or researchers had disclosed anything about having her cells used for, you know, cancer research. So she died without getting a single penny for any medical contribution she made. And I think her family basically tried to like her family, like after she had passed away, had tried to sue, because they were basically robbed of getting any monetary benefit from that research. So like I completely understand. Like I completely get why people would be very hesitant to take the vaccine. And recently there was like controversy about like the first round being like sent to parts of Africa or something, I think. Or was that what it was? Like they were gonna perform some of the experiments like on like people in Africa. I need to read the article again because I'm not sure. But with all of these like with all of these things in retrospect, it kind of makes sense that a lot of like especially older generation like Black folk, they're kind of seedy of like the medical community. There have been hundreds of like articles like pertaining to like Black women and the malpractice they've had to endure like when they're carrying like another child when they're pregnant as well. So there's just like loads and loads and loads of research that I could probably link down below after I finish my piece. um, I don't know how we would get a lot of Black people to start retrusting the medical community. It would basically, in my opinion, have to just start off with a lot of like professional, like Black people, like actually, becoming like doctors and like actually like really going into the medical community. John Hopkins is like really famous for that because they've been treating a lot of, they were one of the first hospitals to treat like poor patients of color. And I think they've been making a lot of grounds in the medical community by having like a lot of people of color as, like really high-end doctors. In regards to me taking the vaccine, I'll wait for a little bit and see what happens.
Word.
And
Mega, you say you wanted to jump in here? I see your hand up.
Oh yeah, sure. It's not just Black folks for sure. I mean, we were talking about earlier the aspartame. How do you pronounce it? But the the entire kind of
Aspartame.
industry, the entire industry, and like even the food industry is misleading. So people are right to have a healthy distrust of the medical industry, whether you're Black, brown, or whatever color, because there's been a lot of bullshit in the history of medical science. And I think that it's important to have some skepticism, some paranoia, but also to be careful about being, misinformed, poorly read, or just a useful idiot. I myself, I used to be a big conspiracy theory guy. And by conspiracy theory, I mean like the quasi political analysis of historical events from the perspective that the ruling class is orchestrating and knowing deeper truth about reality than what the masses have access to. And, everything from the metaphysical nature of reality and the way we perceive it to geopolitical strategy to the medical industry and all of that. It's embarrassing to think about now, but I was very much invested in that. And I see a lot of people straddling this kind of conspiracy theory line, and they're like, it's not conspiracy theory if it happens. And it's like, yeah, that's true. Now, like we were talking about earlier, I try to, when I think about something, I try to find more resources about it. Earlier this year, I read a book. I was trying to find some theory about the ontological status of conspiracy theory and how it's positioned and how it functions in people, right? So I read this book by a professor named Jenny Rice. It's called Awful Archives, Conspiracy Theory, Rhetoric, and Acts of Evidence. And she's a professor of rhetoric. So the book tries to discuss this broader framework that we consider of how we consider evidence and how it's accumulated and synthesized into our beliefs. And for years, she was interviewing people about pseudoscience, the paranormal, and conspiracy shit like 9/11. So she gives all these ways that people collect their information and how they build these magnitudes of things that are not actually connected, but they connect them or even when there's not something there, a lack of evidence becomes evidence for them, and how these conspiracy theories form. And I see that type of shit happening all throughout COVID. You remember when it first happened, they're like, oh, we got this videotape of Bill Gates saying he wants to depopulate the world. You know what I mean? It's like, yo, if you just watch a little bit more and understand what he's saying for 5 more minutes, you understand that that's not really what's happening. And you're talking about like one of the like most successful philanthropists in the history of philanthropy with the malaria virus, the malaria vaccines. Uh, Now he wants to depopulate the world on some nefarious shit. It's easy to just dismiss that type of shit. But I get all the way to the end of the book, and basically she's like, yo, when it comes to people who develop these archives of conspiracy rhetoric, the best way to do it is just to not engage them. Now, personally, I'm people on the right who are like, oh, yo, you're gonna take the vaccine. They look at the Tuskegee Airmen. It's like, dog, like, don't try to take the tragedy and the fucking sickness of the Tuskegee experiment and transplant that onto the shit that's happening from a global pandemic. It's not a 1-to-1 type of ratio. I understand the distrust, but I mean, like, to me, it's a little bit silly that there'd be some type of nefarious global experiment, especially when it comes to microchipping. It's like your phone is already doing the service of all of that shit. So what are you tripping about? Personally, I'm not really jumping to take the vaccine because there's a lot of people in front of me that need to get it first. I'm generally a healthy person, and I'll be fine. I don't take the flu vaccine just because I've never really had the flu. I'm paranoid too, but I mean, I'm really just not buying into it. And I think a lot of the reactions to the vaccine is just like you're presenting it as if you're informed and you're rational and you're skeptical for good reasons, but really you're just buying into a hype train of a mass of information that people are misinformed about. Done.
For sure. So Maurice and Bernie, you want to jump in? I see Bernie looking at me about this flu vaccine.
Go on. I want to know what's up with that.
Yeah. Bernie, come on, Bernie.
Do you think we shouldn't take it, or we should take it? What is the?
How do you feel about?
Wait, I have a question real quick. Are you an anti-vaxxer?
Uh-oh.
Huh?
No, not you, Bernie. I was asking. Wait, are you like
Me? I'm a
you
rapper.
and
Aren't all rappers anti-vaxxers? That's a misinformation. No, so like so I be on Clubhouse, right? Clubhouse is this social media audio app, and Lupe be on there. Lupe Fiasco. He is this brilliant rapper, very articulate, prolific writer, and he's actually been holding these groups where he's asking all these different doctors and geometrists and scientists about the vaccines and health. And there is a lot of anti-vaccine going on, or sentiment going on in the hip hop community. And I wouldn't say I'm an anti-vaxxer. I think I have a similar sentiment as Mega when it came to the flu vaccine. I understand the significance of the COVID vaccine, and I understand that it's different. And so, and plus my wife works with athletes, and so we don't really have a choice. And so, but as far as the flu vaccine, because the flu vaccine is basically the flu, and all vaccines are different. I feel like I didn't have to take it, and I didn't give it to my daughter. Like, she's never had a flu vaccine, maybe one time, and she never got sick. And I know that more people die from the flu and this and that, but I felt like same kind of thing. I felt like we were healthy. I felt like it wasn't a mandatory thing. And because when I was in California, she had to take so many shots, like she took like 15 shots before she was 3 or 2 or something like that. I was just like, that's the one shot she's not taking. I mean, I took it. I rolled the dice. And yes, it don't make sense, Bertie, and I see you looking like that, but yeah, so far it was so good. It was a personal choice, but I will be taking. I honestly don't think Japan getting the COVID vaccine for another year or so. So I don't think that's happening. But I will take it. I will take it, Bernie. I will be safe. All right, who want to go next? That was a lot.
I'll go ahead.
Oh, yes, drop the bombs.
All right. So I don't know how much I've revealed about like what I do for a living, but I'm purposely like always kind of, I don't want to say shady, but I'm like, yeah, I don't tell too much of my business. But yeah, I work with a bunch of small children, um, doing English teaching, but also I have a bunch of kids myself, two of which have disabilities. So they have been, so two of my boys were born in California. So what I did about 6 years ago, around the time that we found out that we were pregnant with twins, was I did a bunch of research. So when we were talking about this earlier, I was just, when Mega was asking you, like, how do you discern, or how do you actually make a decision for yourself? What is real? What is fake? What can I discard? What can I keep to move forward? So knowing the history of the medical industry in the United States, especially within the center of empire, we're not even talking about what Americans and Western powers have done in the global South, when we talk about the continent of Africa. I'm just talking about within the contiguous 48 states, um, yeah. A lot of harm has been done to people that look like us. For many self who came up in the South, I think I mentioned before, like Tuskegee, it's not a thing of the past. It's like looming right there in the background, you know. With the vaccination stuff, with all the anti-vax stuff, because I've been in those circles where I've had people that I respect. They say, "Hey, don't take that damn flu vaccination, man. Don't get that shot, man. You know what's gonna happen." I'm like, well, what? What's gonna happen? What's worse than what they've already done to us? The worst that has happened to me when I got the flu shot, I had a low grade fever, a little bit of pain, a little bit of soreness for like maybe about 5-6 hours, and that was it. I got the flu shot actually a couple months ago here in Japan, just because I knew, like, with my sons, if they had a medical emergency because of me, because they were born premature. So if you all know anything about babies, if they're the lungs are one of the last things to develop on the child, as when they're a fetus. So if they're born a couple months premature, then they're gonna have problems breathing. They probably have asthma. They have something else, bronchitis, whole number of things. I spent one of my birthdays in the emergency room with my twins because they couldn't breathe. So for me, when I heard about COVID and all the stuff, all the symptoms that was happening with people around the world, I wasn't gonna fuck around with it. So I've had people invite me out for parties and that type of stuff, and get-togethers. This is past the. I don't even know if we're in the peak of the hysteria or like the scariness of what's going on. But here in Japan, I feel like I've been out and I've actually had to work face to face with people. Some people just they're carrying on with life as usual, just because the response, relatively speaking, has been a little bit more measured than it has been in the United States, where you have people like openly saying, okay, I don't give a shit about your health or even my health, so I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna go get my my candle at Bed Bath and Beyond. I'm gonna go to Walmart and get that deal, Target or whatever, without a mask, and I dare you to try to say something, So for me, I'll do my research on vaccinations, because again, a lot of the anti-vax movement is couched in ableism. And for me, one thing that anybody that's listening needs to know about me, I was a small kid. I was able-bodied, but I was a small kid. I got called Urkel, So I always wanted to be, big and strong and all that stuff. But I hated bullies because I got bullied. For me now, I can beat somebody's ass now, no problem, easily. Like 9 times out of 10, like, you put me up against somebody, I probably can get them, But not everybody is me. So that means I got to be an advocate. I got to be not just an ally, but a co-conspirator, a protector. So for me, when I became a father, even a stepfather, one of the prime directives for me is to protect. And that means even at the risk of my own life, I will protect the people that I deem most important. So if that means I gotta bite the bullet and, deal with, go into the belly of beast of whiteness and risk my own health for my children or the people that I love, I'll do that without hesitation. So, like Paul said, yeah, probably it's probably not even going to happen. I think Moderna has applied for a patent to distribute the vaccine over here. I think Pfizer is also in the process, but from what I know about the industry here, pharmaceutical industry here, you got to jump through a lot of hoops. Like when I had surgery a few years back here in Japan, actually, I broke my arm. Like I had some hydrocodones from like an old like root canal, and the doctor was like, "Nah, you can't have that." Like I had like police, like basically the police come to my hospital room to confiscate the hydrocodones, oxycontins, the pain pills. They were like, "Y'all, you can't have that." Like they don't play around with it just because of the history of meth here. So I'm sure that the vaccine will probably take its time getting here. The numbers have been cooked here like everywhere else. The numbers of deaths and also people that have been affected probably that are reported are way lower just because we got a lot of people asymptomatic walking around, carrying on with their lives as usual. And here in Japan, we got a lot of elderly people that, I hate to say it, I don't want to sound callous, but they probably going to die of some type of pneumonia-related disease or like some type of breathing-related disease, like either pneumonia or some type of respiratory illness anyway, so they can just report it as that, and then they don't have to say anything about COVID-related symptoms that were possibly a cause. So for me, I'll take the vaccine if it's available. I'll take it for the sake of my kids and for the sake of the people that are around me that might be medically fragile, that might not be able to sustain, the onslaught of whatever this disease is going to bring, because everybody's different. But again, like Mega said, it's a shit ton of people in front of me. Like I pride myself on my physical health, because it's a foundation of my mental health. So for me, like, I was joking in the chat. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go to the gym and do some kettlebell cleans, clean and jerks. I'm gonna get in there. I'm gonna do my work because it's death avoidance for my kids. Because ain't nobody, all we got is us. And if you're a family person, you already know, like the people that got your back. If you get in a car crash, something like that, like I've been in, or if the police hem you up, 9 times out of 10, the people that you call friends or acquaintances, they ain't there for you. It's gonna be your family, even though your family might be shit. They still got your back a lot of times. So for me, as the person that is tasked, implicitly and explicitly with protecting my children as well as my partner, I'll do whatever I have to, swallow my pride. I'll eat shit, in order to do that. If it means shortening my life in order to extend theirs, hey, you only die. I think you only truly die. I think we talked about it before, like Viola Davis said, and I know this quote is attributed to other people. You only truly die when the last person that remembers you dies. So, if I actually leave enough impact on the people and say, hey, this guy was actually looking out for me, he was down for me, thick and thin, then cool, I'll take the vaccine. If there's any adverse effects, I'm sure there are. Then I'll cross that bridge when it comes. But again, I have to reemphasize, like for me, I don't really fuck with the anti comes from, but in the community, I always, and that's part of my vetting process too. Like when we say, like, okay, for example, on the left, or people that claim to be progressive or leftist or communist or socialist or whatever, anti-fascist, how down are you for those people that can't speak for themselves, right? Because if you know your history, if we talk about fascism, the rise of fascism, Nazism, the Nazis, we talk about the Holocaust, right? Even with Mafa, like, who did they go for first? Who did they toss off the slave ships first? They didn't even make it to the slave ships. If you're making the trek from the intercontinent of Africa, from like Angola all the way to the coast, guess what? If you're not able-bodied, guess what? You get your ass left. You're bug food. Same thing goes for people that might have made it across the Atlantic Ocean. You get left behind, or you get tossed to the side like you're not human, right? The Nazis came for disabled people first. They came for people with disabilities, physical, mental, any type of mobility issues. They were gone first. They got erased first. So I think a lot of people in these circles, when we talk about like, how are we going to make a better world or more equitable world? A lot of times we forget, the people that we need to protect first. Like if we're strong enough to actually have a voice and we're cognitive, our cognitive abilities are like tip top shape. Guess what? We got to think about the least of us first. If anybody that adheres to like Judeo-Christian values, it's the least of us first, man. Meek shall inherit the earth, right? Like we gotta protect those first. So that's me, and again, I'm not a Christian. So yeah.
I think just because I know we gotta keep with the time, but I think it's good that we should have a conversation about ableism, because I definitely don't know much about it, and it would be great to learn more about it, and then learning about your experience, as well as Bernie's experience and any other experiences that we come across. It would be dope. So we should definitely plan to expand on that conversation. But I did want to get to the last topic because I know Kristen said she's on the time, and then Mega. So Maurice, you want to intro that topic? Bernie, did you want to say anything before?
Yeah, Bernie.
Nah, I plead the fifth. I think no, I do. But the biggest thing is my health.
Chat? You gonna shoot at us in the group chat?
Nah, I'm gonna clip it. You know how we were just talking about we're not gonna engage? I took in what y'all said. I just think
that's called growth.
The biggest thing is my health.
Yeah.
I think what Maurice was talking about in terms of his kids is something that I go through. Like I can't breathe, and it has nothing to do with COVID. It's
for sure
because I was born prematurely. But that's for another conversation.
Yeah, we should do it. I'm definitely, we all.
Let's put a pin in that. Yeah, definitely.
We definitely want to keep each other safe. So
yeah, if y'all want me to see me on my soapbox for real, man, that's the episode, man. Because I go off, but yeah.
Yeah, we got get out of here, cat. Anyway, all right. So we're going
to
intro. My cat just be jumping in at the end, like what you doing?
Intro.
Last topic, and then we go roll out. My cat is like, let me in.
All right. Yo, I forgot. How many cats you got, man?
3.
Damn.
I got 3 cats.
You got 3. Okay. Yeah, I used to have cats too, man. I miss my cats, man. But yeah, anyways, yeah. So okay, problematic phase. So this just came up just because it's a recurring theme that we see every time. Like again, like on social media, you have like very public profiles, blue checks, white checks, whatever you want to call it, verified accounts. They come out of nowhere with something that's just like wow. Like I think the thing that made me think of it most recently is like the stuff with Pete Rock. You mentioned Lupe Fiasco. He's had his issues in the past. I wanted to know from you all, and then I also, anybody that's listening, please, engage with us on our page on Facebook or on Twitter. You can engage any of our handles, the hashtag This Is Not Information. Who are some of your problematic faves and why? Like, tell me why, for example, for me, I'll just start off. Michelle Obama. And I'll explain to you really quickly. Michelle Obama, as everyone knows, for most Americans that are like left of center, still their first lady of the United States of America. She's a FLOTUS. For me, when I saw that she was the wife of the senator from Illinois back in, this is about 15 years ago when he gave a keynote speech at the DNC convention, I was like, oh, okay. Like he got a dark skin, Black woman. It wasn't like, he wasn't trying to like go halfway, all the bona fides, she's highly educated in the academy. She on her own merits, an ideal picture of, what some of the people that are called quote unquote hoteps, they would say, okay, that's a Black woman, right? But she has been used This is where she's problematic. She is the face of empire, and she's also been used for cover for a Mr. Barack Hussein Obama. So I wanted to go around the room, and then if anybody else, if once you hear this recording, please like send us, a list, or anybody, like I just gave one good example, like Michelle Obama. I want to not like her, but when people say, oh, she might run for office, I'm like, oh, like there's a little piece of me inside. I'm like, oh, please, like do it, because then maybe it will make things better. But then I'm like, I have to slap myself, like, wait, you got to understand, like, she went into her partnership with Mr. Obama knowingly, like knowing that he is someone that what many people would observe is quite cynical in terms of performing blackness, in terms of using certain tropes to garner support within the Black community without actually making any promises, or even promising that he would be held accountable to leaders within different Black communities, not only in America but across the world. So I wanted to hear from anybody who wants to start.
It's becoming a theme for me to jump in first. I'm trying to stop.
Nah, do it, Mega. Both guns.
Hey man, like one of the things that Maurice has been saying in the chat is like, we don't have no heroes. All our heroes are dead, and I rock with that too. But like, I love James Brown and Miles Davis, and these fools is wildly problematic by not just today's standards, but most. And for me, I don't cancel people. I'm not a cancel culture person. I disabuse myself from people. If I feel like somebody is wildly problematic, I just don't support their content. I don't champion them. And so I tend to do that too. But a lot of the people that I listen to, rappers, comedians, movie stars, I don't have an idea that they should have my values, especially when it comes to like poor Black folks who are rappers. I don't expect them to be super woke. I'm not looking for Patrice O'Neal or West Side Gun to not say bitch or something like that. Like, I'm just like, that's their experience. That's fine. And mad people is just problematic. I think if you look at anybody under a microscope, you're going to find problems with them. Me too, especially me too. And so like more than problematic favorites, it's just like I got a lot of problematic. Almost all of my favorites are hella problematic, and I don't really know anybody that is probably not. And if I do, like, it's an underground rapper who just hasn't been investigated. It's somebody who just isn't in the limelight. It's an academic who might have abused some student of theirs, and it just hasn't come to light yet. But I just kind of anticipate that everybody's fucking terrible, myself included, at some point. There might be some little indigo children who are, born in 1999 or some shit. But man, I just expect that everybody's kind of trash, and I love my people that I love. So yeah, Paul Robeson. Oh, no, that's Angel. Like, yeah, I don't want to hear about my historical Black leaders with
yeah,
trash.
we gotta cover our ears on that shit.
Yeah, I don't need to hear, don't try to. Fred Hampton got shit coming up. Don't try to dissuade me from loving my champions. Like, yeah, but yeah.
We need to do an episode on Paul Robeson. We could do it, Bernie. Bernie, I love you. We gotta get you. We gonna get you. We're gonna get you right.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do a black history episode, man.
It's coming.
Like, I don't know about y'all. Like, y'all went to like Black school, like Black elementary school. Like, I had to do like a Black history quiz bowl, man. Like,
I got
3 years running, man. I had to do all that. Phyllis Wheatley, Harriet Tubman.
Yeah.
No, we got more. We got more. Kristen or Bernie, we go all month, February.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man.
Ooh, movie marathon. All right, Kristen, problematic faves, Bernie.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was just gonna say, like, I don't have faves. Actually, I read, watch, whatever. If I think somebody is cool. But like, it's not
You know
like,
them K-poppers is problematic. Stop playing.
okay. So here's the thing, Paul.
Whoa.
Yes.
I
No,
know.
actually, no, because I'm going. No, you ready for the tea? Mega, sip it again. Oh wait, you drinking coffee. Anyway, but the thing is, I was actually having a conversation with my K-poppers the other day about how I'd actually don't stand groups. I don't have a favorite in K-pop. Part of that was because when I told somebody, because okay, one thing about K-pop for me is that I may like one person right now, but that doesn't mean that I'm gonna like them for a few months from now, right? Like I change interest. And I had a conversation with somebody about that, and it turned into something where I was like, I'm not gonna call anybody a fan. I'm not a fan of anybody. But then also too, kind of similar to what Mega was saying, I'm not in that way in terms of like I see everybody as problematic or I assume that they're gonna do something problematic. But I'm like, they're people. Kind of similar to what the original conversation was gonna be about, like putting people on a pedestal. I try not to do that because we're humans. We're more than one human. We're humans, right? And we're all gonna make mistakes. But also too, like, why am I putting somebody on a pedestal when I can't even put myself just even on a step, right? Like I'm giving all this love to somebody who is going to end up doing something that's going to disappoint me, and I can't even love my own self, right? Like that's just more of a personal thing, not like a larger, like everybody should do that. But like it's kind of weird to me where I'm putting all of this like, oh, I hope you are this, I see you as a god, or you have all these great points and I'm want to follow in your footsteps, but I'm not being introspective. And I think that that's one thing where it can get a little tricky. But with K-pop, I have a whole problem with the whole industry in it of itself. So it makes it difficult for me to be a fan of somebody when I know that, like, they don't necessarily have, some of them don't have the autonomy to be who they are. So if I'm calling somebody a fan, am I being a fan because they are the means of production for a K-pop industry, or that I'm being a fan of somebody who's actually the person that they wanted to be? That's just my intake a little bit on the K-pop, on what you just said, because Paul, you try to come at me, but I clipped it.
Kristen, what you got? Problematic faves?
Yeah, fam. The reason why I hesitated too, I was just like, is because I also don't really have like anyone I idolize like that. Like, I mean, there are artists that I used to be cool with until I found out that they were just like colorist, like contradictory pieces of crap. I mean, like, like back in the day, I used to rock for Cardi B, and then I found out that she hated dark-skinned women. I'm just like, well, never mind. And then like, I used to rock with Meg Thee Stallion, and then she's like, yeah, Black women, like we gotta empower each other. But then like literally behind the scenes, she's like, she's like siding with her label over her best friend, and like also like not uplifting other artists. I could go into details, but I won't. So like the thing is, I really don't think trying to put these entertainers and like entertainers like on a pedestal is a good idea. And it's disgusting to me how like they have some kind of like cult like following. It's like they can never do wrong because they are famous. I'm like, what does fame have to do with your morality and integrity? Nothing. Okay, like that's right, zero. So like I just stopped like having a fave. I was like, I like their music, that's it. Okay. So I would say that my faves are people I actually know, like people in my community that make like a big impact. So like I'm a big fan of local politicians in my area who really care about like the underserved, the underprivileged, and trying to diversify like the people in power in our community. Those are my faves.
Well,
I
you live in
also,
Wakanda, so I mean, you in the perfect, y'all got
I mean,
vibranium.
not Mega Paul.
Y'all got all right, man. No, man, y'all playing. So yeah, I don't believe in entertainers being heroes. Um, I was a bit shocked. Well, I don't know if I was shocked about MLK, wanting to get frisky with other women, but um, I don't know, because the person I like the most is Malcolm X. If I have to say like somebody that's a hero, Nat Turner or something like that, and they were problematic. They started off problematic. Like it's growth to me. So like somebody like R. Kelly, he's out of here because he's not trying to grow. Like MJ, I tend to, separate the artist from the music because of the situation what he in, and people don't really talk about MJ getting beat all the time as a child and going out performing in these bars and having Joe Jackson, who was just like wild, and then having skin condition and stuff like that. So yeah, and like Malcolm X, he went through a transition. So I tend to think if people grow, then I'm accepting of that, because I was kind of a jerk when I was a kid, and I did a lot of not so great stuff, and then I grew, and so I feel like I had different perspectives on women, on legal, illegal, all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like where I was growing, my morals was different, and then I got educated, self-educated and educated, and then I grew. So if people grow, I'm with that. But if you don't grow, then I feel like I don't have time, because there's, and then like when we talk about entertainment too, because there's so much good entertainment out there that you can find. Like I talk to DJs all the time, be like, oh, can y'all send me a non-problematic list of artists? I'm like, fool, dig. Like there are millions of people out there making, some of them making the exact same music. There was James Brown, and there's about 20 other artists who made funk or soul or something like that. And if you can see the growth in James Brown, or you can see the growth in Miles Davis, or you can't, that's totally up to you. But like this whole idea of entertainers, it's like Colin Kaepernick. He kneeled, but Ray Lewis he killed somebody and they let him in. So then you gotta look at the institution. I don't watch the NFL right now because and my team is winning. The Browns is like they ain't never won. They about to win. I'm like, yo, I can't rock with that, because I need to see growth. Go for it.
Yeah, I was just I was just thinking, like, instead of like putting them on a like, let's say we have an individual who has shown growth in the ways in which you're talking about, Paul, instead of like putting them on a pedestal, just like talking about the growth. Because I'm just thinking about like a lot of people that, like, I don't really follow people, but like I'm just thinking about people that I've talked about, or people that has mentioned things to me and talking about the growth, like recognizing their growth without putting them on a pedestal, without, because it's like, just because you grow doesn't mean that you're not going to make mistakes in the future. Like maybe they grown in one aspect, but they may make a mistake in another aspect. So I think recognizing the growth, but also leaving room for failure, one, but also leaving room for more growth, because not everybody's going to grow to 100%, right? Like you can have somebody like, I'm not, knock on wood, but let's say like Colin Kaepernick, right? Like he's growing in ways that other people are not, but then comes out and he does something that's transphobic, right? He does something that's okay, something that is classism, right? But we leave room for growth without necessarily putting them on a pedestal. I personally, me, Bernadette, think that is a better way of going about it, as opposed to being like, oh, because they grow, that means they're great and they're better than everybody else. But I'm not saying, Paul, like that's what you're saying, but I'm just like, put it in.
I mean, to the point. I mean, I'm anti-pedestal. I think as a kid though, like my daughter loved Michael Jackson. She don't know too much about it. She will learn to grow and learn about experiences and what people think. And then I think also when people die, it's really hard to, it's just public opinion. So yeah, I think pedestal. I would agree. Not even putting people on pedestals, not putting K-pop on a pedestal, and then you you could just enjoy it. You can you can enjoy your K-pop. You can get your Blackpink on. But yeah, so anybody else want to add to this, or are we gonna wrap it up? Yes? No? All right. So this is why I want to ask a question, because like it's aligning, and we're supposed to get our superpowers. So Mega, don't do it, Mega. Dang, come on, enjoy it, man. It's fun, man. What if you could get a superpower? What would you want your superpower to be?
No, I've had this conversation on my podcast before already. I'm rocking with it.
What you got? What you got? Hit us off. What? Same superpower, different superpower?
I want psionic probability manipulation.
Man, can you speak regular black people English? Can you break it down?
I want photographic muscle memory.
Ah,
No, no. Psionic probability manipulation is like a domino from the Deadpool movie, where exactly, Maurice, long shot, Scarlet Witch, domino. It's where good luck kind of happens to you. So like, if somebody trying to hit me with, shoot me with a gun and I'll throw something, it's going to knock something off, hit them in the head or some shit like that. Also, basically, this affords me like white privilege. So, word.
yeah. Speak to me in black, bro. Sometimes I need you to break that down. I was like,
Hey,
I
dog,
thought
I
you
can't
said
help it if you ever read
psychotic or
comic books,
symbiotic. I was like, my brain, because I'm just making associations.
You got to read comic books.
I do read
I
comic
mean,
books.
you see Maurice right here. He
Yeah, I
got
gotta
all the
actually
characters.
translate. I'm getting old, I think. All right, here we go. Bernie, what you want? You want peace? What you want? What's your
No, I was just clipping the comic book because I
Oh.
don't do comics. Sorry, loves.
Maurice?
But
Maurice tuned in.
I gotta think. Somebody else.
Maurice, what you want? White privilege?
Nah, I don't want no white privilege, man. I don't know. I think, yeah, like it would have to be something to do with like warping time and space. Maybe like a Doctor Strange or like or even if I'm gonna be like super brolic with it, like a Captain Marvel or like a Silver Surfer, like just being able to shift and phase through different matters. Being like having the ability, if I'm able to shift my molecular structure, that means I have super strength as well as like heightened ability of like mental capacity. So, and then also long life. Yeah. So like kind of like a mixture between like Blade and Doctor Strange or something like that.
Blade is raw, bro. Blade.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Kristen, what you think?
Yeah. Saba Noor. There you go. Onslaught. I want to be
Hey,
onslaught.
I'm really happy right now. I didn't know Maurice was a big comic book head like that. Like over here, I've been rocking Marvel comic books since 1992. You know what I mean? Or before that. So
yeah, man.
Kristen, like,
I have nothing to say. I'm sorry.
well, you want no superpower? Come on,
No, I do. Like, so it's funny. My dad has a bunch of his old DC and Marvel comics in the basement that I've been trying to sell, but I think he might like actually kill me if I tried to do that. So I'm
I've
not
had
even
this
gonna
conversation with my daughter. Don't even do it.
try. No, I literally mentioned the word Amazon and he just gave me a look. I was like, okay, never mind. But in regards in regards to superpowers, like I guess I would have two faves. I've always been a fan of like morphing, like when you can morph into somebody else, like Mystique. Because like I just think it's cool that like you could pretend to be somebody else, gain somebody else's trust. It's like the ultimate kind of like spy superpower. I don't know if I'd be walking around ass naked, like colored in blue or green, but maybe something else. So like, I'll pick a different costume, but definitely like, what would you call it? Superpower? Not morphing, but like, what would you call that? You transform into someone else.
Transmutation, shape-shifting.
Shapeshift. There you go.
There we go. I also thought like, I don't know, maybe it's just the aesthetic appeal, but I've always liked Storm because like, first of all, she's just like bad, like as in like physically wise, she's really hot. And like, I think that controlling the weather, especially since we all live on Earth, is like a pretty dope power. I mean, yeah. I mean, like you could literally summon a tornado from out of nowhere and like suck somebody up. You could electrocute somebody else. Like you could cause a drought so people will starve to death. Not that you want people to starve to death. This is all just speculation. So like, I guess controlling the weather and not transmutation, whatever the hell that superpower was. So yeah.
You want to be a supervillain? Ready?
No.
Bernie, you ready?
Yeah. So funny enough, I also had two. The last one, Kristen's last one was what I was thinking of. I also want to be able to control the elements, but not for the reasons that Kristen lay out. Like, I'm not trying to be no villain. But I think it would be cool. I loved Avatar when I was younger. I also love Boku no Hero. My favorite was Bakugo. I would say actually maybe low key my favorites, if we were to go back to that conversation, would be in anime, because they fake and I can morph them in my mind to be whoever I want them to be, low key. But yeah, I would love to have like the elemental powers. That would be cool. I was also thinking probably something along the lines of like spirituality. So talking or communicating with spirits or ancestors or like things like that. Because how we were talking about like there's like not wealth, but a lot of knowledge that our ancestors had either kept or transmitted, send, whatever, they give to generations. But as somebody who has not been able to learn her native tongue because of the situations that my mom had to go through when she immigrated to America, it would be cool, to be able to communicate with my ancestors, learn about where I come from, and even access other stories that got lost because they didn't make whatever academia news because of whoever they are. So I think that would be really cool, as a way for me who loves knowledge to gain knowledge in what it has been considered missing or gone or no ever in existence. So,
Yeah. I mean, I was looking because we was like I said, we was watching X-Men. So like Beast, he created this translator. So he figured out the language of squids, and he created a translator so the squid could teach his college class. And Maya was just like, "How smart do you have to be?" And I was like, "That's his superpower. Like you are that smart where you can figure out because I said first you have to figure out the language of the squid, then you got to create a translator, and then you got to make it waterproof to put it in the water for the squid to be able to communicate, right? And then it has to evolve with the squid because the language they might slang and might." And she was just like, her mind was just, she was just like, "What? I don't even understand." And I was like, "Man, that's a superpower, being smart." Yeah, I don't know me. Yeah, I feel like I was obsessed with Storm when I was growing up. I thought that was she was like probably my first crush. I thought Storm was the truth. And she still is the truth. I mean, even now Netflix I've been watching. So yeah, controlling the weather would be dope. I also Doc Strange. Sometimes I was like, I used to think of like Doc Strange gotta be black. Maybe he light skinned. Cause he just in the comic, he just had that coolness. He was hella cool, And so being able to because he can do everything, right? And he can time travel and he has the capacity to learn something with the brain. I don't feel like I want to be a villain. Although Doom, that's my dude. I love Doom. But yeah, he is. Is he Korean? He like Gambit? Um, but also too, Green Lantern. Like, give me
To
that
believe
ring. That ring.
like
What'd you say?
I was just saying I wanted to believe that Doctor Strange was like kind of like a light skinned like cat daddy, man. Like he was like
He had
that
that
uncle that
flavor
he
in
had
the comic.
that with. He was
Like
light
him
skinned.
and Magneto. I was like, man, Magneto got to be black.
They got it, yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah,
it's
man.
he got that certain swag in the comic, man. They used to be. I was like, it's just like, what's that? Some of those comic, those people they think black in the anime, they be like, that person black. He gotta be. I was like, man,
We
he too much.
pause for a second just to acknowledge that Maurice said he wanted to believe that Doctor Strange was a light-skinned cat daddy.
Yeah, he had that pimp on him. He was pimpish, man.
Hey, I'm with them. I'm rocking with them.
He had the
Rocking with
cape. He rocking the cape. He floating. You know what I'm saying? He ain't scared of nobody. That's the Mac. Straight up. That's the Mac. He was cooler than Luke Cage. Like they had Luke Cage looking like broken out of slavery, and just like I was like, this is too much of a stereotype. But Doc Strange,
nobody liked Luke Cage. Like nobody I knew liked Luke Cage when we was young.
yeah, they made him cool now.
He was corny.
Yeah,
Power Man was kind of corny, man. I read him just because it was like, oh, he got Afro, but he corny though.
no, yeah, for sure. But like Storm, that's where she was just man. Everybody loves Storm.
Row.
A rower. She'd kick your butt.
Monroe.
But Kristen
Not
said
to
she gonna use the powers for a drought. I ain't letting that go.
That was just out of example. Like,
No,
I mean,
you said what you said. You said it from the heart.
Bernie, first of all, like, do I seem like that type of malicious person?
Hi, yes. When you fake
Why?
laughing, yes, yes.
That's
Super
called charity,
villain.
son.
Oh man. No, yeah. So yeah, I know some people got to go. So any last comments?
Always a pleasure rocking with y'all. Thank y'all very much for listening. This is Not Information number 4.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna start dressing like a light-skinned cat daddy myself.
Oh, fifth flow.
Get at y'all.
Actually, I want to see that. Please do, Mega. I want to see your
All right.
version of.
And we got some like we got
Oh
a lot
my
of topics
God.
coming up next too. So I'm excited about our
Yes.
next topics. But peace.
Don't forget, we're gonna be going live starting next episode. So hopefully you'll see us real time.
Leave some comments.
Leave some comments, engage with us. Thank you, everyone.
Hashtag this is
How'd
not
you
information.
change to being all sweet? Get out of here.
I'm always sweet. At least I'm not fake laughing.
I ain't letting this. I'm gonna keep recording too.
Up
Oh,
all-
okay. Okay.
Get
You, I'm
Y'all
gonna have a
close to
Sorry,
each other. Y'all can get about it. If you about it. All right, peace.